Hi, everybody. Welcome to Crossover Sports Talk and Events LLC. My name is Fazil Irshad. I am the host and creator of this podcast where you can find all these listeners what to expect moving forward for this first official podcast of Crossover Sports Talk and Events LLC. I'm excited to start this role with you all to provide you all the content, debates for the NFL and the NBA, and so on and so forth regarding trades, injuries, game highlights, game debates regarding which other teams it can be, all aside with everything with every team involved, every player's involved. Also, I just wanted to make sure moving forward, this is going to be very exciting. I'm going to be having many guests and hosts come on to the show. And I'm very excited to start this and move forward with all that I could start with. I just also wanted to start with myself, introducing myself, how big of a sports fanatic fan I am. Growing up, ever since I was a kid here in the Bay Area, I love all the sports teams that are over here. And I'm very excited to break down not only just the Bay Area teams, but also all over the country and all over the states and all over wherever all the teams are for the NBA and the NFL regarding of anything that goes on. And what got me started was, my dad, he was really into sports. Also, when he came to America a long time ago, from about 30 years ago, he got really, really, me and my family really introduced into sports. He really loved soccer, and then his love for football and basketball really came into about when he came to America. That's when he found his love for the 49ers, the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan and the Bulls. He also loved, the Warriors, Kobe and Shaq, and the Lakers in that era, Magic Johnson, and so on and so forth. With also including many other sports teams, including with soccer, with the San Jose Earthquakes, and all the legends with the USA team. And the San Jose Earthquakes involving the SF Giants as well, including mostly for the Warriors and the 49ers. Also, I'm very much interested in speaking more forward about all the love that I have. It was just really introduction to me that I wanted to start this passion regarding this podcast. I'm very thoroughly excited to have you all be listeners and all excited for this opportunity. I'll have many, many people on moving forward, and why this podcast is going to be great. And I just love my favorite teams that I love that my dad instilled in me within the 49ers. I do love Kobe he's the reason I got into basketball and the Lakers during that time. Grew up as a big, huge Kobe fan. Did also love the Warriors with Steph Curry and the dynasty that began as I got to watch throughout my teenage ages, and the We Believe Warriors and all the other dominant teams that were there during the time with the Spurs and the Oklahoma City Thunder with the Miami Heat, the Lakers, and as you see today with the Celtics and all these other new up and coming teams that are getting involved. Also had my love for the SF Giants with the Barry Bonds eras, the Bruce Bochy era with the 3 rings, including with the 49ers that is the most beloved to me, having 5 Super Bowls, learning about their history. They haven't gotten much in the past 2 decades or so, losing 3 Super Bowls in a row. We're hoping to get one to capture that 6th Lombardi Trophy to tie the most all time. Hopefully getting it sometime in the near future. And I'm hoping for a big opportunity for them to see what they can do after signing Brock Purdy to a big deal, seeing what they can do. I want to blend in with everybody, blending over the culture of Crossover Sports Talk. Everyone's welcomed, everyone's invited. We're going to have a lot of audience interaction, going to allow everybody to speak, everybody to, have their opinions on their teams or off season, what to expect in the NFL off season and the NBA off season, including we having the NBA finals begin soon, coming up in the near week or so. It's going to be very interesting to see what goes on. It's going to be very fun to see what goes on between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. I just wanted to now move forward towards that. The first topic of Crossover Sports Talk and Events LLC, how the Indiana Pacers just won the Eastern Conference, defeating the New York Knicks 125-108 in Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, led by a great team coached by Rick Carlisle, Tyrese Halliburton, Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner. Thomas Bryant was huge today. Their pace, the way they play with, how quick they play, and Halliburton leading the way. It's been very, very a joy and cherished to watch. Who knew, right, that they'd go to the NBA Finals? Everyone had other teams penciled in to go, like the Cavaliers, for example, or the Celtics. I know they were derived by injuries, but it's injuries are a part of the game. You can't expect them to happen all the time, but my God, like it was very interesting how team oriented they were and how well they were played together, not really losing much of back to back games throughout this postseason so far. They've been very consistent, very poised and ready to go to play into this NBA Finals. They haven't, for the first time, they've gone back in about 25 years since Reggie Miller and the Pacers were there against the Lakers. They ended up losing that one in 6 games. And now they'll be facing up and coming. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder that, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, seeing them the number 1 seed with 68 wins and also with the dominant running through the West in their respective ways of sweeping the Grizzlies and, having a tough series with Denver. The Denver Nuggets pushed them to 7 games and then them steamrolling the Minnesota Timberwolves in about 5 games. Now they're moving on to the NBA Finals, which should begin Thursday on ABC of Game 1. It should be a very, very fascinating series. Everyone's been wondering about who's going to win, what type of interesting matchup this is going to be. Where people were wondering about like the old generation or like now it's more the new gen that are now stepping up, young prime players. You have Tyrese Halliburton, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. You have, with the Thunder over there, and then you have the Pacers with a little bit of experience with Pascal Siakam, him also winning the Eastern Finals MVP. Congratulations to him. And Tyrese Halliburton being young, being in the league about 5-6 years now, with Miles Turner after 10 years reaching the NBA Finals, 10 years with the Indiana Pacers, one franchise. You got Aaron Nesmith, young guys, and Obi Toppin as well, and Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurian. You got all these players that are just very young teams, and they've reached over the mountaintop and gotten over to the NBA Finals, beating out, them beating out the Milwaukee Bucks and the number 1 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers, and then the New York Knicks now in 6 games. This should be very interesting. I should love to hear many thoughts about what's going to go on from you guys moving forward. It should be very, very interesting. Very excited to see it. Also, people were just wondering about the NBA, who's going to be the face of the NBA. People were really pushing forward, for Anthony Edwards to take that leap, for him to, also stint over to the top. People thought like this series between Shai and Ant probably could have provided who's going to be the new face of the NBA. Would it be Shai? Would it be Anthony Edwards? People putting also Nikola Jokic. We have got the Joker going in as the face of the NBA because of how dominant he is and how he's revitalized the center position, of how his excellent mapping is great throughout the court, his vision, like the way he scores, he gets rebounds and assists, and the way he defends and involves everyone, makes people better around him. Then you also have, including the MVP and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, him being very, very efficient from mid-range, a sharp three-point shooter. His size is a good defender, and him leading the way, him having his team with the most wins and the number 1 seed, clinching that and clinching the West this past Wednesday with a dominant win in Game 5. It should be very, very interesting to see how they fare when they win. Can they rip off, if they win this one, win this NBA Finals, can they rip off another one in the following year because of how young and how Sam Presti keeps this team together? And now their ownership of how many first-round picks they have, maybe they can go out and trade somebody with all those picks they have, including maybe a player or two, and grab another superstar. Could make them even more lethal. They have a lot of options what they can do, or also they can just continue to keep drafting if they lose guys in the offseason. But they have a very young team. They're going to be around for years to come, including people were shocked with, you also have Jason Tatum with his big injury with the torn Achilles, fortunate injury with such a great superstar player. People thinking about him also being the face of the NBA. It's going to be very, very interesting moving forward to see how things play out within this next offseason within the NBA, or how this season pans out, which we only have about a few weeks left in the NBA season. So before this NBA Finals plays out, we shall see. It should be very interesting. I'm very excited to see what moves forward. To see into the league of basketball in the NBA currently, what's going on, and we'll see whether who will be the face of the NBA. People have been looking for one. We've been looking for one for thinking about. I mean, it's Jokic, him winning a championship about 2 years ago, being dominant last year as well, but losing in the second round to Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. People were thinking the Wolves were going to probably win and take over, but then Luka and the Mavs and Kyrie took over and went to the finals. People were thinking the finals, but then Jason Tatum and them, and the dominant effort of him and Jaylen Brown and the rest of the Boston Celtics teams, how they won last year, is how you're seeing, like, with the Oklahoma City Thunder, what they replicated, kind of what Boston did last year, how they're winning in such dominant effort in dominant ways. And they dominated their way to the West in the Western Conference into the NBA Finals, including with the way the team effort with the Indiana Pacers, what they give. Should be very, very interesting to see what goes on. I thought this series between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder this past series, I felt like with the way they handled with their size, the way the Thunder handled with the way they defend, even if they're up 20, 30 points or so, they can still find a way to dominate you and still want to keep putting it up to move the points to keep go up 30 to 40 points and making sure they're not having any other let ups. So it's pretty interesting to see what goes on. I think it's very, very interesting to see how they winning the Western Conference moving forward. I think in the only game that they only had a mishap was in Game 3, which that blowout happened when they were in Minnesota, but they dominated both efforts in Game 1 and in Game 2, and how they closed it out, and then also finishing it up in Game 5. Only close game really that we had, which Shea really closed out, improving him being the MVP, was in Game 4 of his clutch buckets down the line, and him making big shots along with J Dubs, Jalen Williams shooting massive buckets in the end. I think with Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, they really neutralized Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle as well. With Julius Randle was being very dominant throughout the first two series against the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, which he did have some big games in the West Finals, but they really took care of him in some games where they took him out of the games, which the Thunder took over in those games in which they won in blowout fashion, which people expected this series to go a little bit further than just 5 games, but the Thunder came out and just dominated them. Switching over to the Eastern Conference winners, the Indiana Pacers, of how they dominated the Milwaukee Bucks. Although Damian Lillard did miss a few games, and unfortunately he also had a season-ending injury with his torn Achilles injury. Them losing in 5 games, and Giannis, people are hearing rumors of Giannis possibly leaving the Milwaukee Bucks. There's rumors that you hear with the Golden State Warriors of how much assets they can give up to get him. The Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, and also was thrown in was the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is a shocker. People were thinking like, wow, like they already have so much, but they can get Giannis, which would make it even extremely difficult to move past them in the West, and them being, I think, even more clear favorites to win it the next year or even the year after that. So it should be very interesting to see what goes on in the Western Conference and then this NBA offseason. They're saying there's rumors of the Celtics breaking up their team with Al Horford, possibly Drew Holiday or Derek White even leaving. Key pieces there. So Indiana also defeating them in 5 games in Milwaukee Bucks, and then also defeating shockingly the Cleveland Cavaliers in about 5 games. Then also the Cavaliers did have some injuries, but despite the injuries, they're part of the game with Evan Mobley and Hunter that they also had hurt, and they also had somebody else hurt as well, and that injury was pretty massive for them. But they did miss only about a game or two, but then the Pacers still handled them in about 5 games, and their pace and the way how clutch Tyrese Halliburton has been at this postseason has been very marvelous to see, and his clutch gene is something else, as you saw how they defeated the Cavs in 5 games and then move forward to defeating the New York Knicks in 6 games and having that clutch game 1 victory, coming back from 16 points with about 4 minutes to go, and then stealing 2 on the road, splitting here back in Indiana 1-1, and then officially closing them out here in 6 games back at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indiana. So now moving forward to the fat matchup, it should be an interesting one. Moving forward now to the NFL. It should be a very, very interesting season. It should be really interesting, especially what went on in the NFL draft that we just had recently. I know everyone's been talking about Shedeur Sanders, falling all the way to the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. And then, his teammate possibly that could have been with him, Travis Hunter, who went number 2 overall, that the Jaguars traded up with the Cleveland Browns, excuse me, take him at number 2 overall, and the Browns ended up sliding down and taking Mason Graham at the 5th pick, which was probably one of the highlights of the draft. I'd say overall was everyone was wondering about that, and everyone had the officiality of Cam Ward possibly going 1, and then later down that line was interesting with how 10 to like 30 fell, and then Jihad Campbell falling to the Philadelphia Eagles, which was really, really something else. And then the San Francisco 49ers also taking Mykel Williams with the 12th pick. And then the Las Vegas Raiders also taking Ashton Jeanty at 6. People were expecting. This was a pretty good, deep draft class with the defensive line, with also many skill players throughout the collegiate level, especially in the ACC and the SEC and many other schools that are involved. It was very, very something to see, and how these teams, racked up and built their teams in the off season, so it should be very interesting. As far as moving forward with, the Chicago Bears, what they did, adding in front of their interior offensive line, and stocking up protection for Caleb Williams, their number 1 pick from last year. It should be very interesting with them as well, how they move forward and fare. And then the 49ers, the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, yes, it's my team. Paying Brock Purdy about $53 million a year, $181 million guaranteed, and $265 overall throughout the course of 5 years. People were saying it could be a bargain after a few years, or depending how it could be used and how the Niners use them, comparing it to Sam Darnold's deal a little bit with 3 years, move it off of 3 years, depending on see what happens. It should be very, very interesting to see what they do. They also played George Kittle. They also paid Fred Warner, and they did have some losses, including with trading Deebo Samuel to Washington, the Washington Commanders, and then losing Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw to the Denver Broncos. There were, and Charvarius Ward to the Indianapolis Colts. Also, they just recently released Mitch Wisnowski. Punter signed Thomas Morstead, and it should be a very interesting how much dead cat they cut, and also the addition of Robert Saleh going from fired by the Jets, heading back as defensive coordinator, possibly one of the highest defensive coordinators in the NFL, back with the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. So it should be very interesting with them and many other teams, including the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, them losing some people on the front edge, but how Howie Roseman has drafted very well within the trenches, which was a big reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs this past February. The Chiefs as well were worried about the reasons with Travis Kelce, seeing if he was going to retire or come back. He is coming back for another season. So Mahomes and Andy Reid do still have their weapons, and then them stocking up their offensive line as well. It should be very, very interesting to see what they do in that AFC with very stacked conference with, Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert, the Buffalo Bills as well. Every year they're always balloting it together. Josh Allen and the Bills, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are still there. There's many, many great teams in the AFC, including, the Denver Broncos that are up and coming. And, in the NFC, you still have the Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles. There's up and coming teams. There's still the Rams that are still good. The 49ers also, them having the weakest schedule, I think, in the NFL, including getting younger on their roster, should be another threat again back to contending, I think. Getting, possibly staying healthy. Also, getting off of that Super Bowl hangover loss, I think, of last year, and so many things went on with their team. So it should be a very, very interesting season. I know training camp should be beginning up in July, and we're starting June tomorrow. So it should be very, very nice to see how the NFL should fare this season. I think everyone's been waiting. NFL has the longest off season, but also one of the shortest seasons with about 17 games, once a week. And then, the playoffs in January and season ends in February with the Super Bowl. So it shall be very, very fun and interesting. I also wanted to sponsor, this show is also sponsored from Your Taco Guy, Livermore's local family-owned taquiza catering, authentic Mexican food, and top-tier service. Please call 925-339-5857 to book. The Instagram is your.taco.guy.livermore. Please reach out to them. They're catering events with lots of top-tier Mexican food. Your Taco Guy. Thank you. And also another thing I just wanted to move forward with a lot of people were expecting new NFL with the rules, the tush push, seeing how they were going to ban that, but they officially unbanned the tush push. So it wasn't banned. They were trying to ban it, but teams were looking to ban it, but it was not voted to be banned. So hey, if you can't stop it, you got to find a way to figure out how to stop it. If they can't stop it, then the Eagles will continue running many of the teams as well. There's other teams that are trying to run it, but no one runs it as efficiently as the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts. So it should be interesting with that. That was a big news in the NFL as well. And we should see how they fare this season moving forward. People were also talking about expanding another game, 18 games to have in one NFL season, which would be something. Would they possibly have 2 bye weeks, or 2 teams once again get another bye with the playoffs? It'd be really gruesome to have that many games and all that types that goes out throughout an NFL season. Have a lot of players and faculty and head coaches have spoken a lot about it within their teams. I also wanted to thank everybody. Thank everybody for listening and tuning in into my show. I really appreciate all your guys' help and everyone that helped me, start up this podcast and get it going, and how passionate I've been about wanting to start all this. It's been very, very one of the goals of what I wanted to do moving forward. I'm very excited and very interested to start this and move forward with everybody, and to see how this will fare and how this is run with the podcast. It's going to be very fun. I'll have, once again, I'll like to reiterate and back up of how I'll have guests on here, and I'll have many other people on here, many other sponsorships moving forward with this podcast. It should be very fun, and I'm very excited to start and to keep moving forward with this podcast. So I also wanted to say, moving forward, we're going to continue to have more episodes coming up in the near future. I really appreciate all of you guys and just has an introduction video for Crossover Sports Talk and Events LLC. Once again, I'm your host, Fazil Irshad. You can please reach out at me at Crossover Sports Talk on Instagram, and I'm all over Facebook. I'm also going to be on TikTok as well, and you can also reach me again at my email at fazilirshad24@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Bye bye.